shrewd manager Christianity's position. The Pope did not agree with Bishop Darcy's claim that the shroud is a painted fake. Video 3.1 tells of a 14th century memo by French Bishop Pierre Darcy that says the shroud is fake and the artist confessed. Let's assess the coherence of these claims. Remember the key characters. In the 1300s, Geoffroy de Charny, father and son, owned the shroud. In the early 1900s, historian priest Ulysses Chevalier identified the memo and Father Herbert Thurston translated it into English. Pope Clement obviously knew of Darcy and both Geoffroys and had an idea of the dispute. But is Chevalier and Thurston's narrative true? That the Pope read the memo, then quickly, decisively, and permanently agreed with Darcy's charges? The quick answer is no. At least 8 other documents from between 1356 and 1390 chip away at this narrative. Italian priest Don Luigi Fossati examined the documents at first hand and wrote about them in his book and in several articles at shroud.com. The documents show the Pope changed his position several times. The simplest way to judge the changes is to remove the middle steps and look where he starts and ends. While praising Geoffroy as one who burns with the zeal of devotion, the Pope allows the Charnys to retain possession of the shroud with the imprint of our Lord Jesus Christ. The shroud is to be preserved with veneration at the church in Liry, France. Father Fossati adds that objects known by the Catholic Church to be handmade are not preserved with veneration. The Pope says Geoffroy, too, is motivated to increase the devotion of the faithful and to enhance religious observance. In his bull of January 1390, the Pope calls the imprint a picture or painting. Does this mean he considers it a fake? No. 5 months later, picture or painting is crossed out on copies in the Vatican archives, and he issued a new bull without this phrase. He removed language about the dangers of idolatry, too. This makes little sense if the Pope knew it was painted. The Pope allows Liry to display the shroud, plus he grants special status, called indulgences, to encourage pilgrims to see it. The Pope warns everyone, no matter their status, not to seize the pilgrims' gifts, because they belong to the Liry Church. Based on his memo, Darcy could not have been happy with this result. The Pope warns that any action opposing any of these decisions would result in excommunication, and Darcy is held to perpetual silence on the matter. Does any of this sound like the Pope sided with Darcy, that the shroud is a fake and the artist confessed? No, not at all. There could be a very good reason why the Pope was not swayed by the memo. Maybe Darcy never sent it. Chevalier and Thurston say he did, but the evidence says otherwise. First, then as now, if you respond to an inquiry, it's customary to explicitly reference the inquiry in your response. For example, we can reconstruct 8 of Geoffroy II's petitions simply by reading the official responses. After a diligent search, Chevalier identified some 50 historical documents. No such references to Darcy's memo have been found. Further, Fossati read all 50, reporting that Darcy's memo is the only one that supports a handmade origin of the image. Second, Chevalier claims the memo was forwarded to the Pope about the close of the year 1389, implying that the Pope's bull of January 1390 is a direct response that favors Darcy. This is little more than speculation. The Pope sent Darcy a letter that same day. Neither the bull nor the letter mentions the memo, and far from concurring with it, the letter threatens excommunication if Darcy doesn't allow the shroud to be displayed. Third, there are 2 drafts of the memo. Neither should be considered a final version. Neither is signed, neither is dated. One is very rough and contains many corrections. The other is more polished, but the heading tells us Darcy intends to write to the Pope as briefly as he can. This sure sounds like he intended to write a more succinct version than the stream of consciousness drafts we have. Yet we have 0 evidence he ever followed through on this. Those who believe the shroud is handmade act like it's disrespectful to doubt Chevalier, Thurston, or Darcy. As shroud skeptic Hugh Ferry puts it, dissing Darcy is a popular pastime among those who cling to the historical authenticity of the shroud as the burial cloth of Jesus. Apparently, the Pope can be doubted, but they can't. We certainly don't want to diss Darcy, so for argument's sake, let's say he sent the memo to the Pope. Let's go further and say he had the proof his memo merely alludes to and placed it into the Pope's hands. All that would mean is Darcy made his strongest pitch and the Pope still shut him down, imposing perpetual silence under threat of excommunication. So, to sum up, if Darcy had strong proof the shroud was fake, he either told the Pope or didn't. If he did, why didn't the Pope side with him? But if he didn't tell the Pope, why hide the truth? The most likely answer is this. Darcy drafted 2 memos but sent none. Despite his strong emotions, his hearsay evidence was too weak to risk excommunication. Next, since scientists prove the shroud is not painted, what could Darcy's unnamed painter confess to?